Like, you don't even want it, but you
Takes a
can.
minute, but I'm just giving you guys time to.
I can't, I have to hold it.
10, 9,
3,
8.
2, 1, action.
Action. Action. Takes a minute.
Ready?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. I have a motion to open up the town board meeting February 10th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I have one small favor. If everybody could wait till the motion is complete before you vote, because it's very hard to hear.
Right, first on the agenda is public hearing. So I just need
Make a
a
motion, we open,
motion.
make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, so we're going to conduct a public hearing, introductory law number 1 of 2022, authorizing the use of best value methodology and the award of purchase contracts and contracts for services within the town of Goshen. I'm going to turn it over to the town attorney. He'll take us through it and roll call. And then we can ask for comments or questions from the public or the board. Bert?
Sure, thank you. I'm gonna start right at the top. Mary, just slow me down if I go too quick, all right? Town of Goshen introductory local law number 1 of 2022. A local law authorizing the use of the best value methodology in the award of purchase contracts and contracts for services. Be it enacted by the town board of the town of Goshen, Orange County, New York, as follows. Section 1, purpose and intent. New York General Municipal Law, Section 103, requires competitive bidding for purchase contracts and contracts for services, and has historically required that such bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder whose bid meets the requirements of the specifications for the project. Section was amended to provide that through enactment of a local law so providing, the town may award purchase contracts and contracts for services on the basis of best value, as defined in New York State Finance Law, Section 163. To a responsive and responsible bidder or offeror. Town board hereby determines that it is in the best interest of the town and its residents for the town board to have the authority to award purchase contracts and contracts for services on the basis of best value. This best value option may be, is not required to be used to award an applicable purchase contract to optimize quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible offers instead of the lowest responsible bidder. Section 2, Code Amendments. Code of the Town of Goshen is hereby amended at Chapter 85, entitled Fees, by the addition of the following language to be set forth in Article 3, Purchase Contracts and Services. Section 85-5, Definition. Best value. The basis for awarding purchase contracts and services to the offeror that optimizes quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible offerers. Section 85-6, standards for best value. Goods and services procured and awarded on the basis of the best value are those that the town board determines optimize quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible bidders or offerers. Such basis shall reflect, wherever possible, objective and quantifiable analysis. Criteria may include, but shall not be limited to, any or all of the following. Cost of maintenance, proximity to the end user, distance or response time is a significant term. Durability, availability of replacement parts or maintenance contractors, longer product life, product performance criteria, and quality of craftsmanship. Section 85-7, documentation. Whenever any contract is awarded on the basis of best value instead of lowest responsible bidder, the basis for determining best value should be thoroughly and accurately documented. Section 85-8, authority. The local law is adopted pursuant to the authority of the municipal home rule law and general municipal law, section 103, subsection 1. Section 6, severability. The invalidity of any section, clause, sentence, or provision of this local law shall not affect the validity of any other part of this local law, which can be given effect without such invalid part or parts. Section 7, effective date. The local law shall take effect upon the filing of certified copies thereof with the office of Secretary of State in accordance with the municipal home rule law.
Or any comments from the public? Bob?
What does that mean? You're gonna have to vote if you want to go with best value instead of lowest bidder? Does that mean you guys all have to vote on it, or who decides what best value is?
Based on the criteria that we just talked about, correct?
Correct. Just for procedural, can you just state your full name and street address, just for the.
I'll give you my name.
Okay,
I got it.
well, okay, I'm just making
Just
a
say it,
record.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay, nonetheless. You gotta repeat the question honestly, because I was trying to get over to Mary to tell her that.
Thank you, Bob.
So I'm
Thank
sorry.
With best value,
Yes, sir.
do they have to take a vote and say, we find this better value than this lower bidder? Or who actually decides, this is the product we want by the standards of best value?
Well, my understanding of it, that it could be answered a couple different ways. One would be what the exact purchase contract is, and what the service is, and whether that exceeds a certain value that can just be done by supervisor, or whether it has to.
I was gonna say, it depends on the procurement policy. Purchase lower cost and doesn't require board approval. That's valid.
So they just decide.
There's a monetary mark threshold that would, that's why the hypothetical is split to below that value, and it provides a certain procedure. If it's above it, then a different procedure, and also who authorizes it. The lower value you authorize without it coming before the full. Essentially a general.
I would imagine anything of substantial monetary value would have to be voted on. But I don't even know, is it 10,000,
Well,
5,000?
No, it's
30, I think
20,000 was purchased and then 35 is something that involves the service.
Good, Bob?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Anybody else? Any comments from the board? Bill? No, good. George?
I wanted to mention something. Actually, with you raising that question, I did want to talk about that a little bit further. And I kind of learned, I think, best by examples. So we just went through the lowest responsible bid for the excavator, right? Which was $108,000. And we did that was based on the state bid.
Correct.
Right. So let's say we have one now that was $120,000, and we really think that's better value. If it's at that level, I would think that would come to the board. I don't think one person would just say, okay, this is best value because of A, B, C, and D, or whatever things is. That would come with the best value rationale, and then we would vote on it, I think. But that's what I'm asking.
Well, there's, again, not to be a lawyer and give multiple answers, but there's a current procurement policy that's in place. There's a potential one being adopted down the road, which we've addressed. Even with those two, the threshold dictates where the decision comes. So under the current policy, the Bobcat came before the board for approval and it was discussed. And in that scenario, if the local, it was 120 and a local Bobcat dealer was more available or replacement parts. I know that the subject came up with in the past about using, getting parts from a local dealer.
Correct.
That was priced higher. So in that scenario that you're using, Georgia, come before the board as it did. That their new procurement policy doesn't necessarily change all the authorizations, whether it's the supervisor or the board deciding. It just adds and it gives another way to value who you choose by the best value instead of just the competitive lowest bid.
Whereas the antithesis of that maybe is our procurement policy is under the $20,000 or under the $35,000. Then if we're following the procurement, like there's one where we do 3 written bids that's below that. And then that sometimes that would not come before the board.
Well, as you know, the procurement policy is not a one-page document. So I'm for the purposes of tonight and adopting the local law, all we're putting in is the best value clause And then we're gonna handle the procurement policy adoption in future meetings, so. Right now, it would operate the way it's operated in the past, it wouldn't change, so. I hope that addressed it, George, if not,
Yeah.
I'll answer all,
I think so.
okay.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of understanding Bob's question, I think the bids have to be comparable. So we're not gonna we're still gonna do the best value, the best lowest bid for the product that the town is paying for. But I'll give you a scenario, at least in my mind, what my scenario is. We have a vendor, i.e. the Bobcat, we have a vendor, and that vendor that we purchased that under a state contract happened to be up in Binghamton. And we had a vendor, and that was $100,000, let's just say. And we have a vendor that is the Bobcat dealer in Florida, New York, who's 99.2. So he's $800 more. So when we can look at that now and say, for $800 more, he's not the lowest bidder, but he's the best value because we can service right here in Florida versus going to Binghamton or having somebody from Binghamton come down. So that's the way I look
Yeah,
at it.
there are a million different ways you can describe the best value, but in the scenario why it came up, that is
That is it.
That is service and it's listed right in there, service and maintenance, repair parts. Certainly that's very applicable to our situation here.
I agree with what you're saying, Joe, except that I think the point that I'm trying to make again is that purchase would come before.
Yes.
Before the purchase takes
Right.
place,
Yeah,
based on the
exactly.
best value.
Correct,
Exactly.
and yes.
So we would sit here and discuss it like we did the last time, and then I may say, guys, let's take a look at this because we have a bid that's $800 less, but the value to us as a town is better going with the purchase price of $100,000 versus $99,200. And these are the reasons why we'd still vote on it.
Let me just answer you. When the bids are open, no one can unilaterally determine which of those two bids. It has to come before the bid. What I'm asking you is, if the bids are open, and this is not the best value, can someone say, well, we'll take the higher one? You can't unilaterally do it.
We're not circumventing the process and trying to get
This
Our
is
friend,
just
a deal.
adding the best
Yeah,
value price in our.
It expands our criteria to make decisions and in the best interest of the town. Before, we were married to the lowest competitive, responsible bidder, regardless of their location. And there's an example, Joe, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting it, but there's an example from, I think, like a year ago where that might have occurred, or I think that's
correct.
I don't know how that got in, because before it was always you would accept the three bids.
Yeah.
And decide on which bid you would take, not, doesn't have to be the lowest. But I didn't realize somewhere along the line it would change. It's before my time.
Yeah.
But then we need this year.
And then, I had, I'm sorry, I had one other detail. I've heard really picayune types of things where you send these local laws up to the state, they send them back for all sorts of crazy type of stuff, because everything isn't actually the way it should be. So when I was reading this, it says, do not include matter being eliminated, do not use it italics or underlining to indicate new matter. And as I look down under the local law, it's all underlined there. So I don't know whether or not that's a detail that should be fixed or whether it should go as is.
what's underlined, just the best value part there?
No, a local law. See where it says a local law authorizing the use of the best value methodology?
Where are you looking? I'm sorry.
Mine's not underlined.
No, it's the local law filing. The
Oh,
one
the
that
actual New York State one.
Oh, the cover sheet, the cover sheet.
Yeah,
the one that
Okay.
you're actually gonna send.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's gonna be sent after that. We're not adopting the cover sheet. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we're
As I
adopting
said,
the,
I'm just looking at it as a detail that, hey, are they gonna throw this back at us because we did?
so I have no problem with you reviewing that. You're a step ahead. That's gonna be done. Well, you're not full step, it's gonna be filed somewhere in the next 20 days, as long as it's filed in 20 days after adoption, assuming it's adopted. But that sheet would be reviewed by me and submitted by Clerk Riso.
And the
So
underline would be taken.
certainly now, after George pointed it out, yeah.
Rick, you have anything?
No.
Doug, you have anything?
Yeah, when I have bought things in the past for myself, things like warranty, availability of service, the things that are intangible that come with the product. So I think this is most appropriate. That we just don't clinically say, well, you're the lowest bidder, but you don't have any warranty, so those kind of things. So I'm not for it.
All right. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion to adopt.
Can I get a motion to adopt the local law number 1?
I make a motion to adopt local law number 1, 2022.
Second,
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call?
Yeah, you need a roll call on that?
Why don't we go down?
All right, Doug,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
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 Very good.
All right. Okay, we'll do some old business here, not too old. I'm gonna ask Rick to give us an update on the progress of the salt shed and the new pre-construction facility that are going to.
Okay, so the
I'm sorry, Rick, can you just begin so you?
salt shed, the foundation has been completed. We received the shed itself in a box, a couple boxes. So the guys are putting that together, the highway department guys are putting that together. And then Tam is gonna come and put the shed up, the salt barn up. We don't have a date on that yet. They're supposed to get to us this week to let us know what the schedule is. But it'll be very short. So the pavilion at Craigville, we picked out a pavilion. It's 40 by 50. I think the pavilion itself is approximately 42,000. That's before the concrete and installation and building the pavilion. We haven't actually got a package together for it yet, so we'll be doing that this week. I reached out to a company in Pennsylvania who has pre-constructed pavilions. That's the one that we're going to go with. That's Hattersville, I don't remember. Hattersville. So that's the pavilion we're going to go with. It's a metal roof. It's got metal sides. It has about 8 posts on the outside on each side. It's a nice looking building. Town of Poughkeepsie actually did one last year, I think, last summer. Real nice. And it could be done. It's a pretty quick process if we have someone do it. So that's where we're at with that. We don't really have a date on any of that. We haven't had a meeting yet to set up the the specs for it and stuff. So that'll come this week. This week. That's it.
Any questions?
So as I said before, we're gonna have a PE sign off on this, right?
Yep.
Right.
We'll have engineer plans.
They'll deliver engineered plans to us.
Right. And the other thing is, it looks like, no guarantee, but it looks like we might be able to use this for the day camp.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
Our goal is.
When this was proposed back in December of 2020, we said, yep, go for it. Contingent upon 2 things. One was signing off a professional engineer for the safety of the welfare of the people. The other was we were thinking about $100,000 or less. So
It's gonna be right in that ballpark.
that's fine.
It's gonna be right in that ballpark.
With inflation like it is, construction materials, it's not a
Yep.
bad deal.
Yep.
Get it for $100,000.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we might put a couple of extra things in the pavilion. We might run just a water service over there in case we decide to build something there, or extra electric or something. We have to, as the JRC, we got to get together just to make sure we get everything. at once.
All right. Anything else? All right. To have Phil give us an update on Resolution demolition.
So it's quite appropriate that we talked about the bidding process, because that's really going to, we're going to discuss that right now, as far as bids that go out for this region school. Bill, you know that there are a lot of moving parts to this thing. I mentioned it at our last meeting. So now I received a memo from our engineer, Sean, and you have a copy of it. Packet that will be in order to bring it up. I'll just recite some of the cliff notes of this thing. The first one, there are three components to this. The first one is contract administration and permitting. And one of the contracting was had to go out to Rory, the town attorney, to see if we had to make any changes. And you reviewed the whole contract and sent it back and said there were no changes. So we're okay there. Administration and permitting. So there's one area that we need to go over and probably discuss and maybe decide what we want to do at this. And it's for in the bidding process, we have an environmental company, it's called Quest, who does most of the bidding. They have to approve. But it also has to go to the New York State Department of Labor. And Quest indicated that the approvals were relative to asbestos abatement. Generally, they're easy if the structure has been condemned. We had talked about condemning it in our last meeting, and I thought that's so. When Sean spoke to Quest, they indicated that there were two ways to do this. Okay. I still only see one. One is to condemn the building and go as a condemned building. It may take and go through the Department of Labor easy. The other way is not to condemn the building. But if we don't condemn, and the reason they say not, maybe you don't want to condemn it, is because if the bids come in too high, or the funding is a problem, or there are other problems, then once you condemn that building, it becomes a liability to the town. So we have to discuss whether we really want to condemn it or not. From my point of view, it's a liability to the town no matter what. So the fact that we condemn it doesn't make it any more of a liability. It's a condemned bill, and we do have to address it. So that's where I stand. I don't know where anybody else stands on that, but
So who does that? The village?
Yeah, it would be Ted Lewis.
Building inspector, right.
Be Ted Lewis would be.
Right. So that's just one issue that we need to take up. I'll just give you the other components, and if you want to talk about that, we'll do it. So the next thing is the technical specifications, and they're sending a draft of the specifications. Quest will do a quick turnaround on that. It shouldn't be a problem, he indicated to our engineer. So that should be taken care of to make it into a problem. And now we have construction access. And we have to provide the county with a site distance from the building to the road that we're going to go on. And we have already decided that we're not going to use the library's access. It just doesn't make any sense. And it had to be surveyed, but our surveyor did use the survey from, I think, 2005. So we saved money there. And then I got a memo yesterday stating that the surveyor was able to go out there, he went out 2 days ago, and he got that done. So very shortly, it will be sent to the county for their written approval. But tentatively, Joe had talked with the people in the county, so and I. They indicated to Joe that it wasn't going to be a problem, so it should be all good. The last piece of that puzzle was we talked about possibly doing it with force account. We would do it ourselves, or make it part of the bidding process. Well, it will be part of the bidding process, but as we have determined, it probably will be a lot cheaper to do it on a force account. So I called Mayor Wall, and I said, we have a project here. We need to put a temporary road in. And I also gave him an update on what was going on that I just discussed with you, what an engineer is talking about. and how we're proceeding. So it's very transparent. Everybody knows what we're doing. So I asked Mayor Wall, you know, what he would think, because a lot of times if there's a joint project, we do it together. The town will do it. He said there was absolutely no problem. I got it in the form of text, so it's in writing. I don't need it. I know I don't.
This is the road only, correct?
This is for
Okay,
the
yeah, I just want to make sure it was. clear to the
temporary
public.
road.
Right, okay.
So what he said is that we'll call the DPW, Rick, you can ask Roderick to call the DPW. Once they set up a plan to do it, then we'll tell the village, you know, or indicate that they'll know. We'll discuss it with the village as to what to do. But he was 100% on board. So really, I think we have all the components and they're ready to go as soon as this bid thing comes in. And once again, there's just a lot of moving parts to this, and I understand to the bid process, and we want to get it right. But I think within the next week or two, hopefully we'll have the bids, and then we'll give it to Mary to set up public hearing.
Question.
Yeah,
When we took the asbestos floor out of the highway department, one company took the asbestos out. Another company monitored how well it was going. Friable asbestos in the rooms and this and that. Is Quest going to serve that purpose? Are they
Quest
going to
will
be
do the
there every
monitoring,
day?
that's what they do.
Okay. that's-
And the removal is what we're getting the bid on, because if it's condemned as a total asbestos building, rather than just removing the asbestos, then Quest will do monitoring.
Do we have any idea what Quest will charge for that?
It's gonna be in the bid. So I don't.
They're going to be, okay.
So we'll go forward with that.
That's good.
Thanks, Phil.
Very good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have a question on condemnation. If we condemn the building, is there a time frame by which we have to take that building down no matter what? Once you condemn it?
I don't know that off the cuff, but I
that
would
would be
think
my
that it becomes
concern.
immediate. As Phil pointed out, it's a liability as it is, but
Yeah.
it becomes a strict liability. Once it's condemned,
Correct.
we have to have movement on it,
So
so.
my concern is looking at it prior to the bids coming in. If the bids come in hypothetically, let's say they committed 2 million. We can't do it right now, you know, when the building's
Yeah,
condemned.
we got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's still sitting there, and Doug, Phil, George, you're on the board. When I was on the board, we tried to do this 10 years ago, and it was too high to abate and knock down.
Yeah,
So
now
it stayed there. Now it's arguably the entire thing needs to be knocked down and made it actually cheaper in a roundabout way, so,
Well, that's a year and a half ago, that's what we thought,
right,
because everybody was looking for work, and that's why
yeah,
I really fired this whole thing up.
sure.
But I see it's starting to dwindle, so we're gonna move on this thing. But you're right, Joe, once it's condemned,
Condemned, do we have a time?
if,
We're gonna be forced to take it down.
absolutely.
Correct, and
because
yes,
if it
that's
goes
what it does.
Everybody's on board with that, and we got a little problem. So,
Or you check
Yeah,
into that?
Mark, that.
Well, why does it have to be condemned? I mean, can't you take it
as
down
part of the
without?
removal process.
No, you can't take it down without having it condemned
Not
first.
this
Quest had an opinion on that.
Yeah.
I saw it reading it, I didn't recall what it was.
It was on the other minute, yeah.
I believe it changes, I think it lowers I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's something to do with the cost and the way you can remove the product and how you can knock it down as opposed to it not being condemned. You have to go in and identify where asbestos is. And I think that was when we had that meeting.
Well, if you treat the entire building as if asbestos exists everywhere,
Right,
including bricks, then you. don't have
Everything
to
goes out.
identify it. Everything goes
That's
out.
right.
Yeah.
Everything gets bagged and out and treated as.
so I think it was a
That's why the
cost
cost is so
analysis. But if we condemn and the bids aren't acceptable, we're forced to take it down and we're married to whatever is available.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I don't know where the chicken and the egg is on that right now, is whether the bids are gonna come in and we can make a determination after the bids come in on what to do with the building, whether to condemn it or not. That's where it's getting tricky.
I'm not sure if we have to or not.
Right. That wasn't, I mean, this is kind of late in the game that
Yeah, it is,
came up,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, by the
And
time
we
we
had-
come back to the next meeting, I think we'll have a better understanding. of that.
Yeah, but we had already made the decision.
Right.
that The easiest way would be.
That was on the
fastest
recommendation,
way Would be to just condemn it.
sure.
Or just classified as an asbestos site, and just get rid of it.
I'll look into your question, Joe. See what we come up with.
Question?
George?
My question is, the other memo that we got about the gas main easement. It appears that there's a potential wide gas main easement.
We don't know, it's
in
on the
that-
2000, it's on the 2005 survey, so we have to investigate that.
So that may change, right? That potentially could change where the road.
It could potentially, or it may not really affect it anyway, but they just do have to investigate that. What they're saying is the gas line is moot because it's not going to any building that function. So it's a moot point. We
So
have
it's
to-
really, not-
Right, that's the way I read.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If there's a gas line, you just go over a gas line.
I call 411 first.
I think we have a question.
Joe, question now, or do I have to wait for later?
Sure, no, go ahead.
Okay, just to Bill,
yeah.
the temporary road, I'm not clear. As we had talked about one approach coming through the fence. You're talking about a road off Craigville now?
Right, going the opposite way of like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know where that road is that goes to
The
the other
driveway.
side, the driveway that goes all the way down to the corner?
Yes.
That's not the road.
That's that's good stuff.
But it does go that way.
Yeah.
So it goes part of the way down, but it goes straight out to Craigville.
Okay.
And it's a real short run.
Yeah.
And we'll just put a temporary road in there. It's a real, and it's direct, it's straight, it's, and that's.
Okay.
All right, moving on. New business.
Joe, real
Yes.
quick before we close.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Could I ask a procedural question? Sure. Prior to COVID upheaval, at the beginning of the town board meetings, we were asked if the public had any comment on the agenda items. Is that out or
We do it at the end, privilege of the floor.
right? But prior to COVID, there was a call at the beginning of the meeting, prior to any business being conducted, if the public had any comments on the agenda items, because once you talk and vote on the agenda items, what difference does it make if someone has an opinion contrary to?
It was only in a public hearing.
No, it wasn't.
No.
I don't remember
was-
that.
I don't remember.
It was in the past minutes. I did see it like in
Oh, I
2017, 18, 19.
Okay, but
we did that at every meeting.
Exactly.
There was a beginning part where we didn't do it. And then when you started coming to meetings. It's your fault, Bob. I'm joking. But yes, for a couple of years there, I remember Doug saying, if does anybody have any comments on the agenda items?
Exactly.
When we were starting. And I think that's a good idea. I think that we should do that again.
Sorry to step out of order.
No.
I just wanted to get that.
Yeah, listen, I don't have an issue with it. If we want to, we can put that in play at the next meeting. All right? We're also gonna try to get the agenda out maybe a day before the meeting. Mary's fighting me on that, but that's all right. Changes so much. All right, new business. We have a sewer issue on Larchwood, not Larchmont, right there? Larchwood. We have a issue with the line that looks like it was repaired right along the center part of Larchwood. And for lack of a better word, we have a bubble in it. And the bubble is creating backflow of water into the drain right by 17 Larchwood. And we had a spillage last week, so poor people at 17 Larchwood, they took care of it, correct, Mary? Serpro went out there, took care of it all, but it's not something that was pretty, for sure. So we have Sean working on, at Doug's request, and I agree, we had Sean working with Dominic on coming up with what we need for the DEC. We notified the DEC that there was a spillage. So they're up to date this way. We don't have to wait the 60, 90, or 120 days it takes the DEC to process some of these. It's more of an emergency. I'm just bringing it up tonight, and all the data will start to come in. Hopefully during the course of the week, and everybody will be able to see what the cost is associated with. But we are definitely going to have to replace the line because the section from 17 Larchwood to 21 Larchwood is a section of pipe that was changed, repaired. It's plastic. Nobody knows when it was done, and it's 4 degrees pitched the wrong way. So everything that's coming down is going back to 17 Larchwood. No way around it other than to dig it out and replace it. Like I said, we will have an update from Sean and an update from, we are waiting for a bid from TAM. We were able to use TAM because they won the county bid, so we can go off the county bid. We don't have to go out to bid for it, but it's not going to be an inexpensive task for sure. It's probably in the $200,000 range to repair this.
Not like state bids. This is a repair, so it's a replacement. So an item that high, we just pick a supplier and just take it.
Well,
I just need to understand. what we're
yeah,
talking
well, Rory, you have an explanation of that
Yeah.
exactly?
I don't, I was
Okay.
not,
So I called the Office of General Services at the county and I said, what is the protocol for emergency repairs on sewer systems? And the protocol is you have to go out to bid, but if you choose to use the county bid because they've been deemed the lowest bid already, they've gone through the process, and TAM does all of the county water and sewer. If we use them, we don't have to go out to bid
On an emergency basis, so we could.
on
put
anything.
this-
Right, Christine?
No, it can't be. On anything, you have to go out for bid.
As long as whatever's in that county contract is
Correct.
what you're hiring them. for.
Correct.
The county has
Just like
something
the
to do with
same
our
thing-
subdivision.
Same thing like a state bid.
No,
Same
I
thing.
don't know. I understand the state bid.
We're piggybacking on their,
Yeah.
on
I
their bid rates.
understand the state bid. That's when we're
Right.
purchasing something or something else. But this is replacement of an item.
Right.
And when you buy it off state bid, that's because you're buying something off state bid. You could still go out for bid. I'm not resisting. I
No,
just-
no, you're
I want to
asking.
make sure we don't do anything wrong. I
Right.
can't imagine that you can just call somebody up because the county uses them. And it's in the county contract. I don't know what's in the contract because I'm an officer for the town of Goshen.
Correct.
I know what's in the town of Goshen.
Right.
But to use somebody without, and I know he's done great work for emergency basis, but this is not emergency. We're going on a repair. If it's an emergency, then I stop talking.
Oh, no, it's deemed an emergency. You need to get it repaired. Right now, we're spending what is he jetting it, every 2 weeks?
3 months
Well,
quarterly.
but
now
It was
more.
3 months, but now he's going once a month, I believe, to jet it. So we have to go in there, we have to jet it out at a cost of $2,000 for that jetting process.
Right. Now
And
we're
these
going to
people-
talk about replacing a line,
Correct.
which is a couple of $100,000.
Could be.
And someone is going to come in and replace that line, not on an emergency basis. Because I don't think, I just want to make sure we're not.
Well, I think
doing
when
anything
Sean comes
that's
back
gonna
and
get
tells
in
us
trouble.
what his professional engineering standpoint, what's required to fix this problem.
Legally,
And then,
and I want to make sure we do.
and then we will then.
No, we definitely discussed it today. I had a meeting with Sean today. I said, please make sure that, we dot all our i's, cross our t's. Make sure we get in touch with the DEC.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said there are different things you can do
Right.
to Band-Aid the problem, like put a check valve and things like that. That doesn't solve the problem.
No, I think we should.
So,
fix
but
it.
I think it would be good if you could follow up for
Sure.
us
Yep,
with
no problem.
the county attorney and
Yep.
and see what the practice is. Because I've been told by Commissioner Burple that on any county contract that's been awarded, they've gone through due process already. And any municipality in Orange County can piggyback off their bid
I think
without having to go out to bid.
that Broderick in the past.
Yeah.
is-
Paving.
Yes.
paving
Yeah, I
Okay.
recall
has
that.
been on a county bid.
Correct.
That's us.
No,
That's
but
not
I-
an outside vendor. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm
No, no,
saying
he
that
uses
he
Ward
uses,
paving.
he uses people.
So Ward Paving has won the county, and we've used Ward Paving
Made
with the county's
very much
bid.
like this.
Correct. That's, but I'll look into it to get a clearer answer, but
I just don't want us to get in trouble.
So if you look at
Yeah.
Hartley Road, remember we blacktop and we did all
Yeah,
that Portland?
I do.
We didn't go out to bid for that. We just did.
Right.
County
The
bid for
county
that.
bids, okay.
I mean, there's two, just so you know, TAM is giving us two bids. At their suggestion, and I agree, they're gonna give us a bid for the entire job, digging it up, putting the new line in, using only their people. And then they're gonna give us a bid for the things that they have to do and what Broderick's people can do. And then we'll have, obviously we have a much less cost with Broderick, with our highway department.
Like the trucking.
Yeah.
use
I
that new
think what's
Bobcat. out there.
probably throwing me off is the word bid.
Well, I'll
Estimate.
I'll
That's what's
clarify.
throwing us off.
Yeah.
The
They're
estimate.
giving me
think-
an
Yeah.
estimate.
Estimate.
They're giving us an estimate, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Correct, wrong
Okay.
terminology on my
No,
part.
no, that's okay. I'm just like,
Yeah.
one person bid, that's kind of, okay. we're good.
But we'll follow up. This was just the beginning to let everybody know that there is a problem and we're addressing the problem on behalf of the residents at 17 Orchard and the other residents on Larchwood. Item number 2, review and discuss the lining of the sewers in Half Park at Arcadia Hills. We've been doing this. The board has allocated a certain amount of money each year for it. I asked Sean to go out and give us the cost on what it would be to line all of Arcadia, all of Hamiltonian Park. There's a memorandum in your package that shows the cost associated. And this is not an exact cost, it's an estimated cost. It could be less, it could be more. But Arcadia Hills, we're looking at somewhere about 1.9 million, and Ham Park about $828,000. This, as we go down the list, you'll understand why I asked them to do this, because we're gonna be looking at some grant services. Myself and Rory met with Senator Scoopus, who agreed to, not agreed, but gave us direction on what we need to do in order to get the monies for this via a WEAV grant. So we're gonna start the process of looking at that. And we have 2 proposals. We'll discuss that next. But there is a cost associated with the I&I. Everybody's familiar with it. And as Doug has said, it has gone down since you guys since we started to line the sewers in both of those sewer districts. But the cost is still in the 100,000 range right now. So it benefits us to look at, even if we don't get all of the grant and we have to grant and borrow or something, the cost associated with, and I know we don't like to borrow, but the cost associated with throwing, $100,000 a year away, we easily pay that money back. Any questions on that?
Special districts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Well, as we move along on this and we look at because in April, we reviewed the new rates for the people, what's it gonna cost them next year. And we, money, of course, $100,000 plus tank, water tank. And we don't want to chase people out of Arcadia Hills, and that's one of the things we've always been trying to do. Now, we have rebuilt all we said to the engineering group, where do we start? And the biggest problem we have are the sanitary man. We finished all of that, and we've been putting $65,000 a year in the park. I can't recall for Arcadia Hills in there and doing it, and that's where we got this reduction in actual costs. But if we can get a grant, that's the way to go. I think if we start really saying, well, we're going to do it, and we've got to borrow the money, well, we have to look at that very carefully, because I'm not so sure the particular Arcadia Hills is a low end.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, the WEA grant is based on the how well the town is doing or how poor the town is. So we don't qualify for all of it coming to us as some of the other municipalities will, but there's definitely a piece of it that will be grant and a piece of it that will be zero interest over 30 years, which is essentially free money. And if you have cost losses of 100,000 a year, we could work the numbers to see whether borrowing this additional money and getting this taken care of now is something that benefits the town long run.
Well, we need to look at all those
Of
numbers,
course,
sure.
absolutely.
And
We need to know
I think
what
it's a
we're
great
getting.
idea. With the faster we get it fixed, the better off we are. But we have people paycheck to paycheck, and that's subdivision. We don't want people to have to leave because they can't afford the water and sewer bills. I was when we put in the new sewer tank or the water tank, we put that off for 2 or 3 years until we absolutely had to. And I'm glad we did because of inflation and the cost of doing things. And it came in under what we anticipated. So it's a good thing. But yeah,
We're gonna look at it. We're gonna
Okay.
look at what the two grant service proposals that we have and
right.
try to come up with a solution, which way we want to go, and then start the process to see what we're gonna get.
Right. Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is we want to discuss and potentially approve the increase of parkland fees from 3,000 to 3,500 to correspond with the village fee. The village put into play last month.
Real quick, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry to deviate. Do you wanna do 4, and just finish that discussion?
On what?
Well,
The
4
grants.
ties to 2 on the agenda items, and you started to dip into that.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. We'll see.
And
Yeah,
that
very
way
good.
it's
Good point.
clear
So,
record.
yeah, we'll 4 and then we'll go back to 3. We should have reversed those. So we can discuss and review the proposals that we have for grant services. We have 2 proposals. Myself and Christine we sat through a presentation on Zoom for Millennium. Pretty good company, I believe. Very good Zoom that they did with us. They are a cost of $36,000 up front
I think 3,000 per month.
per month, yeah.
The commitment is for
Right.
a year.
So they have a yearly cost of approximately $36,000. They will bill monthly. They gave us a list of the grants they've worked on, what they've gotten for certain towns, so it's an impressive list. And very impressive list on what they've done. Again, there's a cost associated with that, and therefore, there's no guarantee that we would get the grant, but there is a guarantee that we will get the bill. So,
Well, we going back 10, 12 years, we've got $500,000 from the federal government by going directly to our representative, John Hall. I got $100,000 from Jen Metzger. I just called her and said, listen, I've got to have this money. I don't have a lot of time. Let's get on with it. She made it happen. There's $600,000. Fusco got us, believe it or not, $50,000 for a salt shed. The only problem was $200,000 salt shed, and we couldn't afford the other 150 or whatever. So we've been successful, but I know that, and the other thing is that cities like Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Curious Joel, we have a big population. They always come, or Middletown, they get a lot of these grants. And even though we've done all the homework and whatnot, we're at the bottom of the barrel.
based
So,
on, that's what they said to us. It's based on how well the town is doing and how well they're not doing. Of course, they are nowhere near where we are.
right.
So that's part of the criteria.
You also named elected officials that cover this area that are in the majority. And
Oh,
right
no
now,
question.
right now, that's not something we have for us, so.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Which party is in power?
Right.
You know?
So that's why we went to school.
That's
Well,
right.
we started-
The lines were shifting, so we're trying.
We actually started out with Senator Montucci. He told us exactly the direction we had to go. And then myself and Rory made the appointment. We went down to see Senator Skoufis, and, he basically said to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, he basically said him and Senator Martucci work very well together. They have synergies to help both of their districts, and that he would help facilitate the grant that Senator Martucci helps us put in. So that's a good thing for us, but there's no guarantee what we're gonna get. He did say, guys, remember, there's two components of this. There's gonna be the grant component, and that's gonna be based on a certain criteria. The value of where your town is amongst all the towns. And then there's a loan portion of that, but it's almost relatively zero interest,
It was mentioned that it was zero interest, so, a pretty long payback.
30 years. So effectively, it's free money.
Let's go back to item P.
Mhm.
Talking about there are two companies. I'm not sure if they solicited us or we solicited them, but we have two companies.
We solicited
that are-
them.
Okay, so not having the benefit of listening, asking questions to these two companies. One company that I saw just a bang gave us, they listed 13 municipalities and companies that they work for and got substantial grant funding. We also listed the fact that they have 108 clients on the thing, 108. And some of those clients have been on since 2005 and forward. So I would think if you're gonna make a presentation, you take your best deal and present it. If your best deal is only 13 municipalities that got substantial grants, and they have all these other clients that they've been collecting this money, $36,000, which is not peanuts annually. I'm not sure where we're at as far as how they're gonna do for us. My thought, and I think the other one, and I didn't see the fee schedule. I would rather give a percentage of any grants that have been given. And then I know that if I'm gonna pay somebody, I'm gonna pay them for the work rather than just pay them. And that would be more an incentive for me. And I see that their brochure is very impressive.
Yeah, and just so you know, I don't mean to
Yeah, no,
interrupt
go
you.
ahead, yeah.
No, this is early stage. They're gonna
Yeah, well,
both
that's
gonna
why
be, they're both gonna be coming back in to speak to the board.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
good.
Yeah, this is
I
not.
thought you wanted to vote on this
No,
thing.
no,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
I'm not
no,
voting.
no. No,
Okay,
this is
all right.
more information. These are the two that we looked at.
Grant writers,
Yeah.
okay.
Delaware Engineering came highly recommended from both Senator Martucci and County Executive. John Burst has done work for all of the municipalities in Orange County. They're a firm out of Albany. And I really don't have anything from them yet. They're preparing a similar to what Millennium did. So I brought this on tonight, just so you know where we're going. And then they will come back in and speak to each of the board members.
If
And any
anybody's
questions you
talking to
have.
them,
You're talking about Delaware.
Both.
Well, Delaware engineering has an office in Goshen.
Correct. They do.
So.
Yeah. They have an office, where,
Right here,
yeah, where Cornerstone Theater Arts is and,
and Jerry Litch's.
well, I'd be interested if they have a program where they take a percentage of any grants that they produce. I don't know if they do. or
that's the only
don't.
way they do it. So they take a percentage.
Who, no.
Delaware. That's what you said. Yeah. Millennium or
Oh,
Delaware?
Okay.
Millennium is straight pay.
Millennium is
Flat
It's
fee of
fee
10,000.
based.
Good.
and Delaware is success based.
Yeah. I just didn't know if Millennium would take percentage-based program also. I don't know, but I like the percentage base.
No, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
All right, so
But Joe, this is just strictly for discussion,
I think it's a good idea.
and they'll come back into us.
I think it's a great idea.
Doug, you have anything?
Professional.
Well, you know, but when we were talking about having to put a new force main in Hamilton Park, I went to our Sean Patrick Malone, and I said, we're gonna more than likely you need at least $1 million, if not $2 million, to put this line and so forth and so on. Okay, Doug, if we fill all the paperwork out, and sent it, 3 weeks later, Newburgh took all the money or something, I mean, it was just, we're low on the totem pole because of our population, et cetera, et cetera. And how the population is made up, they need the money per capita, so to speak. We may afford a little bit more on our own.
Where we're higher up than a lot of places in that particular infrastructure item, it's significantly integrated in this municipality. So
Correct.
indications to us were that you are a good candidate there, and maybe not so much in the.
I mean, just take the village of Goshen.
Yeah.
The village of Goshen, their sewer system
Oh, yeah.
is 100 years old. or
Yeah.
more. Ours is maybe, and ours is 50 years old, or
Yeah.
40 years old. But I'm just sharing with it. But when you close the doors, behind the closed doors, who gets the money?
Yeah.
And I tried to share with like Senator Metzger, this tank is, we've inspected it, it's got a life. It's past 3 years, it should have been taken out of service, so and she got us the money. But it took a lot of talking, a lot of writing, a lot of follow-up to do that. And so what I'm sharing, we're in competition with other municipalities who are vying for that money.
Including our own
Yeah.
town here. So.
The only thing I could say differently is that the $727 million that's sitting at the federal government for water and sewer infrastructure.
Yeah.
That changes the whole scope of things. So they have till 2026 to send that money out. So that's why we have a better shot of getting a larger portion of that money.
Sounds good to me.
But I don't think we're gonna get it all in the form of a grant.
And I think getting a professional grant writer is the right way to go.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
really on board with that.
So we'll get them all, come back and do a
Oh, good.
presentation.
This is a very specific
to the
grant
board.
type of writing. It's not just a
Yeah,
They
general
say
grant.
money in the bank.
Yeah, it is. And
They kind of
if
know
it's not right,
what
we
buttons
don't
to
get
push.
it.
Yeah.
So.
George, do you have anything?
Well, what was basically said already, I was saying, I read both of the proposals so
Yeah.
far,
Yeah.
and if I had to make a decision tonight, which I know I don't,
Yeah.
I thought Delaware was, they seem to have a, see that, I mean, their staff there, 24 grant writers, and it looks like a lot of their work is done in New Jersey, whereas the Delaware
Yeah.
engineering group is, they have an office right here in Goshen, and the other thing, as Phil said, it's a percentage after you get the grant as compared to spending the $36,000 a year and coming up with 0 grants potentially.
Good point. Rick?
I've dealt with Delaware before. I know that they do have a great staff there, so. And I think it's a really good idea to start. We're going to be looking at some repairs and replacements, I think, as far as our infrastructure.
Well, the water almost more than the sewer. They just keep popping all over the
Yeah,
place.
so-
We're aware of the fact.
Yeah, so I think grants are the way to go, absolutely.
All right. We're gonna skip back and circle back to number 3 and talk about, discuss and hopefully approve the increase of parking lot fees from $3,500 to correspond with the village fee. I think the village just, when did they do that, Roy?
Last summer, during last summer,
Okay.
April 26th. That's not
So, I
summer.
mean, I just think that as a municipality, we should be in tune with what the village is doing also.
I have no problem with that, but I think some municipalities are up to 445.
Yeah, they are.
I'd like to see where we all at. I mean, I don't know. We can go ahead and pass tonight.
Well,
Well,
Pardon?
can't pass it,
No, can't pass. No.
but I think that's a good idea.
I mean,
Whole
we can
section.
just look at the analysis of all the towns.
I guess we should have worded this differently and just said we're open for a discussion on whether this is something that we want to look at, because I know, I think Chester's at $4,500 a lot, and Rose at 6,000 per lot. So maybe we should do an investigation.
I think we have that information in this building. Be very
Yeah.
candid with it. We've asked for it before. Christine, I think your office may have it for a different, no? I've seen it.
Maybe building and zoning.
I don't know. I've seen it
Yeah,
before.
okay.
I'll get Kat to investigate here and if not, make phone calls.
Real easy. You never know what we're dealing with.
But we're open to increasing it. That was the point of tonight.
Yes.
Yes, Bill? Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly with inflation going like it is now, the money doesn't go that far.
Just a note on procedurally, the village passed it by way of local law. So there is potential that it could be done by way of resolution. I have not gotten that far. I thought it was, local law was fine, so that would require a public hearing and everything. So we'll get that information out as quick as possible.
I think we should strike the balance, because the village really doesn't have any lots left
No.
to build, and we're the ones that do
Well, they have
all the building.
they have a 340 apartment complex coming up, you know, so on Good Time Park. So that's almost that.
Well,
Is that gonna happen?
Pretty close.
Oh, okay.
we've been living with that thing for 20 years.
I know.
It's on fire now.
Well, you know that we don't, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
understand. I understand they're, you know,
Oh,
that
man.
they've given in and now it's only 1-bedroom apartments and I think that the village has gotten, you know, one from the developer. I think they're moving forward.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. All right, so review and approve the minutes from January 27th, 2022. Anybody have any questions or comments on them? Yeah, please,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 6. Let's discuss and approve the final payment for the water storage replacement for Arcadia Hills. We have a memo from Sean Hoffman. Supervisor Betro and the town board, enclosed, please find the requisition for payment number 7 in connection with the reference contract which are transmitted for action and payment. This is the final payment of this project. We submitted on the January 13, 2022 cover a series of documents in connection with the closeout of this project. Affidavit of payment of debts and claims, affidavit of release and liens, and a consent of surety company to final payment and maintenance fund. At this time, the time of our subdivision, we provided copies to Attorney Brady for his opinion on legal sufficiency. If Attorney Brady advises these materials are satisfactory, we recommend final payment once a certificate of compliance has been issued by the town building department. Since this is the final payment, we should confirm the total payments to date prior to being closed or in the amount of $564,072. He goes on to say that you recall a portion of this work is to be funded under the DASNY State Municipal Facilities SAM program. The program allows payments to town in accordance with the grant distribution agreement with DASNY, which typically require documented expended costs and the submission of supporting documentation. We understand the town will submit dispersed request to DSNY. If you require any assistance from our office, please, in regard to this, please don't hesitate to call. So we finished it. The final payment is $29,688. Any questions or ask for motion?
So this is, in reality costs, it's $100,000 less than what we,
Correct.
And we received the grant.
and we got the grant money in addition. So, this is one of those things where we lucked out because of the cost of steel and everything else. We just did it at the right time.
Yeah.
If we were to go out and start this project today, we'd get $100,000. So good for us and good for the people that are taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy.
Joe, if I could just note
Sure.
before you guys move on this. As noted in here, Sean did provide me materials, which essentially in the form of affidavits. And I wasn't obviously out at the site to approve it, so I'm taking Sean's word that that work is done. And then obviously the documentation is affirmed on the penalty of perjury. Those costs were confirmed, the 564 plus the final payment. So in my opinion, we're good
Good
to
to
go.
go?
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Can I get a motion to approve the final payment for the water storage tanks?
So moved.
Second,
Uh,
all in favor?
Doug and Phil went together. So Doug first, then Phil.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, wrapping this up. Can I get a motion, well, let's discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay the accounts payable check run on February 10th, 2022 from the amount of, hold on. $2,461,260.49.
So move.
It's the fire. Yes, it's the fire. Yeah. It's the three fires. It's the three fires. Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're paying the bill tonight. We had an additional payable on that check run that came in after Christine provided us with this. Discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay a manual EP run in the amount of $2,219.36.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded?
Doug,
You approve a budget transfer from Christine Cavallari, see attached. And that is, Christine, you want to explain that? I know it was
Yes, I just needed to make a correction and then add another transfer. On January 24th, I requested approval for the following. Interfund transfer expense, which is A 99,900, and then A general townwide fund to DA highway townwide fund to fund the purchase of equipment for $108,390.65. And also for the budget transfer from DA highway townwide fund balance to DA 513200, which is highway townwide machinery and equipment for $108,391. But I'd like to rescind the second request and instead request approval for a budget transfer from DA 5031 highway townwide interfund transfer revenue to go to the DA 513200 highway townwide machinery and equipment. Because that expense is being funded by that interfund transfer that's coming from A. So it's really not coming out of fund balance. And then in addition, I forgot to request approval for a budget transfer from A general townwide fund balance to the A 995900, which is general townwide interfund expense line.
motion? Yep, need a motion. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then information only, Christine Cavallari conducted the accounts payable order for January 13th, 2022 and January 27th, 2022. Do you have any questions on that? All right, thank you for your time tonight. Thank the audience for their time. I'm sorry, Bob.
To the floor, you had.
I noticed you keep your
I'm
head
sorry,
down.
Bob. No, I didn't mean to call you.
Avoid eye contact.
Last week I.
wait, didn't we move it to the beginning of the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you missed it.
You
missed it.
The pavilion at Greenville Park, do we have a use for that?
We have a use for it?
Yeah, last time we talked about it, it was, I believe it was in the middle of COVID. It was better use that,
It was in December of 2020 when it was proposed to us.
seems a lot more recent than that.
No,
I'll take the word.
no, that's when we got we discussed it at that time, and we said two things. One is come back with a plan signed by a professional engineer. And number two, come back with what you think the design is going to cost.
Yeah, and you must have talked about it afterwards. because one of the generating reasons was say the expense of the tents. Because in the summertime with the COVID, the original pavilion is not big. But be that as it may, what is the planned use for this?
It's the summer program. So Park and Rec, Trish Sherlock petitioned us because the program is growing to the point where they can't store everybody underneath the existing pavilion when it rains. So they need more space. This is something that the board had approved already, and we're just moving forward with what was originally approved.
The other thing was, the last time this was talked about, there was a disagreement as to how many were Goshen people that were attending, this, that this was becoming a regional summit.
I can't. answer that.
I don't know if it's a regional summer camp, but most, with the towns not having summer camps, we may have had other kids from out of town,
Right.
and we were limited to space. So if those kids, if we had Goshen people that wanted to go to camp, we would allow the Goshen people and bypass the other out of town people. So it's kind of a selective thing. If we had the room for other people, we would allow them. It's not really like they're not coming from, you know.
Well, do we know what the split is? Are we building this for a lot of other people?
No,
Well,
This is-
do you have the numbers?
I could
They have the
almost,
numbers.
I could almost
Well, you
100%.
didn't have last time I spoke to you.
I could almost 100% say that it's mainly Goshen people, and it'll also be used by Little League, by soccer, by softball. So that pavilion is going to be
What would they?
to sit under and have lunch, to enjoy the outdoors.
Plus
It's a town
summer
park.
summer program, there's an associated cost with it that helps benefit the JRC. Because they don't have enough money that they're getting from the town and village. So this is added money going into their budget to help them run programs.
Yeah, but if you're gonna talk about $100,000, how much you charge these kids to go to some camp?
They should
And
give,
if we have to lay this whole thing out,
Paid for by parkland fees. So it's not coming out of our pocket specifically.
well, that's the other, you know, as 5 members, Republicans, you know, I thought one of the tenets of the Republican Party was to let the people keep their money. Keep taxes and fees as low as possible.
This is coming out of parkland
Yeah,
fees, which isn't
Right,
actually.
and you just raise it, you don't want to raise it.
Right.
No, that's for capital. That's
Yeah,
for,
but just-
those dollars for capital.
And I haven't heard one reason why you're gonna raise it. I've heard the town charges this much, we should be in agreement with that.
No,
Why
we-
should you be in agreement?
Well, let
with
me
that?
share with you
have
why.
your own- You have your own budget structure.
let me share
Why
one.
should you be in agreement with just
Let
the
me-
idea of being in competition is to see who can have the better government? Not to say, oh, they get 4,500, let's us charge.
No, let
I
me,
mean, you guys, maybe you forgot, but kids in their 20s and 30s, this is an extra $3,500 they need to buy a house.
let me
And
share.
it's gonna get worse with 7.5, 8, 9, 10% inflation. You know, paychecks aren't keeping up. But anyway, I thought that was one of the tenets of good governance too, was not to take a penny more than you needed to run the government.
But Bob, let me share this with you, okay? This is a capital thing. And we've built 500 homes in Goshen in the last 15 years in the town. All those kids are going there now and they're looking for more park space. Now, the operation is cash. We donate or give to them, I think it's 125,000 a year from the town, the village does something comparable. Okay? But we've always been on the backside of growth. Okay, like we had $400,000 or whatever before this in this capital budget. The village doesn't have hardly any. So I can see why they had to lift theirs. But we've been looking, for example, the talk has been, and has to start with joint rec, of putting new parks on the other side of Route 17, because that's where all those homes are.
I
Rather
think
than coming
you
through the
should.
village. Huh?
I think you should.
Well,
There's
but
no
that
reason
costs
to have
money
this
is what I'm
one.
sharing with you. That $400,000 we have right now will not go far. if you're gonna create a new park and so forth and so anyway, it's appropriate we look at this. Because the other thing is inflation, I heard today is going up 7.5% and it's gonna go into next year. Also, I heard today, one of the things I think our board needs to think about, the cost of oil is going up 40%. Asphalt roads come out of oil. We're gonna be in a world of hurt. Thank goodness we've been putting a lot of money into road construction in the town. Municipalities that
Well,
don't.
my only point is, I
Okay.
think you deserve, people deserve to know what the government they're getting is costing them.
Yeah.
And I think this disguises the cost of the government. You're collecting fees from people now that's supporting the parks, and everybody thinks, oh, you get the parks for free.
No, they don't. I mean, they don't get the parks.
Well,
We have to buy the land and we have to build on the land, so forth and so on. So
But I think this just disguises the cost, and beyond that, you don't have a reason. I mean, if you wanted to say, we have plans to do, a park over on 17A or something like that, well, then, well and good. But to have, like you said, 400,000 in the bank too, that's even worse.
One big reason I hear is people complaining to me about what our parks have, what we're missing, what we don't have, what other towns have. So for them to see a pavilion going up in Craigville Park, it's gonna look beautiful. It's gonna get a ton of use. So it's
that's
well
what you-
worth.
That's what you say, but I don't see the.
How much time do you
pavilion
spend-
getting
How much time do you
used.
spend at the park, Bob? Are you
I
there a lot?
drive past it 4 times a day. every day.
You drive past it?
Yeah, 300.
Okay, what about on Saturday? How busy is it there Saturdays? And how busy is it on Sundays? And every night during the week, during the spring when baseball's playing, they're always in that pavilion. So they deserve something nice. And that's
Listen,
not gonna get.
I think, yeah, I think you bring some valid points up. I think what you really should do is go to the next Park and Rec meeting and ask some of the questions that you asked of us, because I really don't know what the answers are, and I think they're great questions. How many kids go to rec camp? What do you make on the rec camp? Does it cost town taxpayers any money, or you do the revenue generated covering that cost? All great questions, and I think I invite you. I go, I'm learning a lot of stuff. Rick's our member on the board, but they spend two hours once a month talking about it. And I ask you to come, because I'll be there next time, and let's sit and ask those same questions. Relative to parkland fees, I mean, everybody charges parkland fees. The town is growing. Unfortunately, the way the IMA is structured, in order for us to spend money, the village has to spend the same amount of money. Maybe we have to look at that. We could probably look at that as a town board, because we do have the money and we do need more open space. There's no doubt about that. So,
Well, like I said, I just think that without a reason.
there'll be a reason.
Well,
It's
yeah,
coming.
yeah, I tell my boss too, I need a raise. Why? Well, he's making more money.
But once a year, the joint rec their board puts together a capital budget of things they want. Everything from bathrooms and Peary Street to this to that. And it amounts to a lot of money. And I'm glad they're thinking that way. Now, this one took a year because of COVID to even put it together. I'm glad it's here now. So this 100,000, and we were told then a year ago in December of 20, they had real need for it at that time. So parks are going to come alive again, I think, this summer with COVID particularly going south. So good for us. Okay, but it's a good question. But I agree with Joe. Go to the joint rec, because they're the ones who put that list of proposals to us, both boards, for what it is they want, and we discuss it.
But as caretakers of that $400,000 fund.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you know how many kids are from Goshen that are going down there, and how many are out of town? I mean, should I have to go there and bring the word back to you?
No, but it's not something that we have ever asked. Maybe we should have asked, but the fact of the matter is when you present that question, you're almost insinuating that there's a cost to the taxpayer of Goshen for somebody from Chester going to that program. And I say there isn't, because that kid from Chester going to the program is covering his own cost for that week that he's there.
But is it covering the cost of $100,000 bill? I mean, if you're not making money with 1,000 kids going there, 500 of them are from out of town, why not just cut it down to 500 not make that much less. You know,
But I don't know they're not making money. I think they're supporting their budget by that program. I think they add to what they need, the deficiency that, we don't give them as a town. They add to that by having this summer program. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's correct.
Well, I asked for their budget because you can tell what the revenue is and the expense is based on their budget. It's pretty simple. That used to be my business, finance, so it's pretty easy. You just pull the budget.
But
Did I ask you, Christine? if you could
Yeah,
pull
I
the
sent
budget?
it. The
Yes.
state report they gave us.
They gave us the state report, but not the budget. That
They did. They gave Joe the budget.
Because I asked to have it pulled so I could look at just the.
But that budget doesn't tell you how many people attended the school,
No.
attended the program. It just tells you a dollar amount that they got from that program.
It should
But-
tell you the revenue.
Right. the revenue
Yeah,
amount.
did.
But I think Bob's looking for a breakdown of how many of those attendees are from Goshen and how many are out of the town of Goshen.
Well, I didn't think that one up. That was spoken about in this room.
But Bob, here's how this thing works. The Goshen Central School District has children as far as away as almost to where the mall is in Middletown and Campbell. Those children, when they come, they pay a fee in addition because their parents don't pay town taxes. And so they pay a fee, and it's set by the JCR or JRC, and they collect that. But that's why you need to go to their meeting and figure out what it is.
I will have that answer for you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I want to say the rates for out of Goshen residents is higher than for Goshen residents.
Yeah, that's where we make the difference.
Yeah.
They try anyway. I mean, I don't know. But see, that's a cost item. That is not a capital item.
We could do an analysis on whether the program's successful. It's pretty good.
Well, the program's definitely successful because it's growing. That's why they needed the
Well,
additional
I'm
space.
talking about expense, but because maybe they have to raise the fees, or maybe we're charging too much. At least we can do assessment.
So the only thing you're looking information for is on how many of the attendees are from out of town. And
Well, that wasn't my
Yeah,
point.
no, I know, but I
My point was,
Yeah,
Are we spent? I don't get.
I know when I say that, you're more concerned about how much
Yeah, we're gonna spend $100,000 on a shed
the dollars.
for something that might be for more people from Chester than Goshen.
But just so you know, that's what that money is there for. We can't give that back to the taxpayers.
I understand.
It's not the taxpayers'
I
money.
understand.
It's the developers paying into a fund in order for us to.
And like I said, I don't know why you keep throwing money at Gregville when you have people on the other side of the town that have to come all the way over here to play on Saturday mornings.
I asked-
Parks over there.
I asked that from the board in the form of an email to them, and their answer back was they've never had any request whatsoever to build something on the other side of 17. So I asked them to look into that to see if that's something that was needed, and then we can address where we can put it, and we can address if we have the money to do it. I agree. I mean, if somebody lives on Maple Avenue all the way up by Celery and they're coming all the way back to him, to Campbell, to Craigville Park, it's a drive. But I did ask the question.
Now, but it's been talked about many times. For example, the Pursuance Farm. Half of it's open space and half is, as they build, okay? And back, I remember Susan Maisel, who's deputy clerk, she and I went out there and it was too wet to build on. That's one of the problems out there. But they've been looking at things.
Oh, I went out and looked at we had a lot of open space from developers, and I went out and looked at property along the Walk Hill.
Yeah.
For recreation, we've looked at a number of sites on the other side of the, so we have.
What was Craigville like when you started that?
I can tell you,
Yeah,
I can tell you, 'cause I was there.
It was a swamp.
Absolutely, it was. Then we had that land for 14 years before we started to develop. We developed it with Myron and I.
That's because everything past that last baseball field there.
Yeah,
Going back, it's still a swamp.
yeah, they bought that land and that where it was going.
Well, I don't know how you got it.
Yeah, yeah.
I know. it's a
But they
swamp,
had it for 14 years before we.
That's why they can't get it to train.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Anything else, Bob?
No,
No.
thank you.
I got one other thing.
Go ahead, George.
I don't know whether it came in or not, but I got an email from Greg Townsend today saying that Compliance is sending us a check for $2,380. It's a loyalty award from Workers' Comp. Did we get it? Well, it's coming.
Yes.
According to Greg.
End up on good news.
All right,
Can't you make that 200,000?
with that being said, can I get a motion to close the meeting? Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Don't know.
I was going home, now I'm going to get a drink.